Fuzzy Mud, Chapter 14, Wednesday, November 3, 9:40 a.m. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, the students in Ms. Filbert's class had to write in their journals. Sometimes she let them write about whatever they wanted, but more often she gave them a prompt. Tamaya preferred the prompts. It was strange, but she found it harder to think of something to write when she could write about anything in the world. Most everyone else always moaned and groaned when they heard the prompts. It didn't seem to matter what the prompts were. Some people just liked to complain. Today, Ms. Filbert wrote the prompt on the whiteboard, then said it aloud. How to blow up a balloon. Along with the usual moans and groans, there were a lot of, huh? And what? Hands were raised all around Tamaya. I don't get it, Jason spoke out without raising his hand. You just stick it into your mouth and blow. Oh, you mean like this? Asked Miss Filbert. Tamaya watched wide-eyed as her teacher took a red balloon and placed the whole thing inside her mouth. Miss Filbert took a big breath, then blew, spitting the balloon out onto the floor. Everyone laughed, including Tamaya. She smiled at Hope, who sat next to her, then tried to catch Monica's eye on the other side of the room. Monica was looking back at her, sharing her amazement. Miss Filbert scratched her head as if she were greatly confused. That didn't work, she said. No, you don't put the whole balloon into your mouth, said Jason again without raising his hand. Just one end. Miss Filbert slapped herself on the forehead. Well, why didn't you say that in the first place? She chose another balloon and this time put only one end into her mouth. The wrong end. No, the other end, called Monica. Miss Filbert turned the balloon around. Now blow, said Monica. Once again, Miss Filbert spit the balloon onto the floor. All around Tamaya, kids were shouting instructions, trying to tell Miss Filbert what she had done wrong. Others were repeating to their friends what they had just seen, even though their friends had just seen it too. Miss Filbert held up 2 fingers and waited for everyone to quiet down. Don't tell me, she said. Write it. Pretend that what you write is going to be read by someone who never ever saw a balloon before in her whole life, and she's none too bright neither. Miss Filbert knocked on the side of her head as if testing to see if it were hollow. Tamaya laughed. Her mind was already working on her how to blow up a balloon instructions. So, your instructions have to be clear and precise, Miss Filbert continued. Later, you can read them aloud and we'll see how many balloons I manage to inflate. The complainers were moaning and groaning again, but Tamaya was up for the challenge. She picked up her pencil, thought a moment, then wrote. You start with a flat balloon. You want to fill it with air from your lungs. The rest of the class was still buzzing about their teachers spitting balloons. From across the aisle, Hope tapped Tamaya on the shoulder. What happened to your sweater? She whispered. Tamaya's heart sank. She hoped it wasn't so noticeable. What do you mean? She whispered back. It's all torn. Tamaya shrugged. Who cares? She said, trying to prove she wasn't the goody two-shoes that Hope thought she was. She returned to her journal, reread what she had written, and then added, look for the end with the hole. No, she didn't like that. A hole was the last thing you wanted in a balloon. For all she knew, Miss Filbert might stick a pin into the balloon just to put a hole there. She tried to think of what else to call it. The knobby round thing? She tried to erase what she had written, but instead made an ugly gray smudge on her paper. Tamaya's pages were always clean and neat, and she had an excellent handwriting. She tried rubbing harder, but not hard enough to tear the page. A red drop fell on top of the smudge. At first, Tamaya was more worried about her journal being ruined than anything else. But when she looked at her hand, she was horrified to see it was covered with blisters and blood. She dropped her pencil. It rolled across her journal, leaving a red track behind it, then continued across her desk and fell to the floor. Miss Filbert, called Hope, Tamaya's all bloody. 2 times 256 is 512. 2 times 512 is 1024.